Discover the incredible life-changing lessons a millionaire's twins learned from their black maid, in the posh suburbs of Dallas, where every lawn was manicured to perfection and every car gleamed with luxury. Twin brothers Jake and Ryan lived a life most could only dream of. Brand-name clothes draped their lean frames, while the latest gadgets buzzed in their pockets. Yet, in this world of privilege, Ryan felt an unsettling emptiness gnawing at him, a weight that contrasted sharply with his brother Jake's relentless pursuit of fun and popularity. Everything shifted when their mother hired Mary, a black maid from a rough neighborhood far beyond their golden bubble. Her laughter echoed through their meticulously clean home, a sound bright and infectious. Ryan was drawn to her stories, filled with grit and warmth as she juggled multiple jobs just to keep her family afloat. Every laugh and every sigh brought with it a glimpse of another life, one rooted in hardship yet bursting with hope. Meanwhile, Jake, oblivious to this connection, chased fleeting trends and the approval of their wealthy friends, often dismissing Ryan's newfound fascination. As they helped Mary prepare dinner one afternoon, Ryan was struck by the dream she shared to become a nurse. Her eyes sparkled with determination, each word painting a stark contrast to the emptiness he felt in his own life. "You can chase your dreams, Ryan," she told him. And for the first time, he felt a flicker of inspiration. Her struggles were real, and her hopes tangible. When Ryan relayed this to Jake, the brother he had always relied on, he found that their bond with Mary deepened. They didn't just see her as a maid but as a woman with strength, a heart full of courage, but their moment of bliss didn't last. When their wealthy friends mocked them for associating with someone outside their social bubble, the air turned heavy with tension. Ryan's heart raced when he found himself defending Mary against their cruel taunts. "You don't know her struggle," he yelled, his voice shaking with indignation. Jake watched in discomfort, torn between the loyalty to his brother and the fear of losing his place in their elite social circle. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The charity gala arrived like a shining beacon of wealth, shimmering with diamonds and designer gowns. Yet, it was suffocating, filled with laughter that felt too loud and conversations too hollow. Amidst it all, snippets of talk about Mary slipped into their ears, thoughtless whispers belittling her hard work. Ryan's heart pounded as he felt the raw need to stand up for her. He couldn't hold back any longer. "That's not fair," he blurted out, startling the crowd around him. The shock rippled through their friends and family, leaving Jake conflicted, his instincts tethered between standing by his brother or retreating into the comfortable cocoon of privilege. At that moment, Mary entered the gala to assist, bridging the boys' two worlds. The room, filled with tension, was suddenly electric. Each pair of eyes turned to her with judgment, but Ryan and Jake saw beyond that. They witnessed her warmth, her resilience, her pride, powerful and touching beyond measure. They stood faced with a choice: embrace the strength and wisdom she represented or slide back into the shadows of entitlement. As the night progressed, they found their identities tied to her. Would they find the courage to choose integrity over comfort? The moment hung heavy, leaving them both wondering what path their futures would take. Ryan felt an electric charge in the air as he watched Mary move gracefully through the gala, her presence filling the room with a sense of warmth that starkly contrasted the superficial mingling of the wealthy guests. She carried herself with dignity, her smile radiant despite the whispers that followed her. It was crushing to know that she could be judged so harshly by people who couldn't begin to understand her heart. Jake stood beside him, glancing nervously from Mary to the group of friends who had once craved his attention. They wore expressions of shock, their laughter fading into wary silence. "What have you done?" Jake muttered, a hint of panic in his voice. "This isn't how we play the game." Ryan's chest tightened. "Some games aren't worth playing, Jake." He took a step forward, the pull of Mary's courage urging him on. "If you can't stand up for her, then what's the point of all this?" The crowd around them stirred, and the buzz grew louder as whispers turned into hushed conversations, eyes darting between the twins and Mary. Ryan's heart raced. He had never imagined he'd feel this way, like he was teetering between two worlds, one comfortable but dishonest, the other uncomfortable yet freeing. Listen, Ryan continued, directing his voice toward the guests. Mary puts in more work than any of us will ever know. She's worth more than the diamonds on your necks. His voice steadied as he spoke, gaining confidence with each word. Faces shifted, some intrigued, others offended, but it didn't matter. What mattered was that he was finally giving voice to his feelings. Jake felt a knot form in his stomach. He hadn't anticipated this moment would tip their lives upside down. We have to go, he urged, but Ryan shook his head. I'm not leaving. Not now. The radiant light of the gala dimmed in Jake's eyes. Could he stand by while his brother championed a woman they had once regarded as merely a part of their household? But somewhere deep inside, a flicker of Ryan's conviction sparked confusion and longing. He didn't want to ignore what was happening or pretend he didn't care. Mary approached them, her calm demeanor penetrating the tension that hung heavy in the air. Boys, she said softly but firmly, I appreciate your support, but I don't want to cause trouble. This isn't my space. That's where you're wrong, Ryan replied, his voice gaining strength. You belong here just as much as anyone else. You deserve respect. Mary looked between the brothers, her eyes reflecting both admiration and concern. I will always work hard, boys. But you shouldn't have to fight my battles. Focus on who you want to be. Her words hit Ryan like a wave. He had never felt such clarity before. He wanted to embody the man she inspired him to be. Jake, too, felt the weight of her gaze. It was a call to see beyond the privileged surroundings they had always known. As discussions among the guests crescendoed, they stood together, united in their support for Mary without an ounce of hesitation. Yet in that moment of resolution, doubts began to creep in. Was this newfound bond strong enough to withstand the pressures awaiting them back home? Would the world they had known, neatly wrapped in status and privilege, allow them to redefine who they were? The sound of clinking glasses and laughter began to fade as two different paths loomed before them, one leading back to their elite circle, the other toward an uncertain but hopeful future. Would they take this leap together or let fear pull them apart? In the silence of shared understanding, something shifted in Ryan and Jake's hearts, intertwining their fates with Mary's in ways they had yet to understand. In a world captivated by appearances, could they find the strength to embrace authenticity? As Mary glanced at the twins, her face lit up with cautious hope. Ryan felt that this was just the beginning. Their journey towards change had sparked here, but what would it fully ignite in each of them? What challenges awaited as they ventured deeper into a world teeming with complexities? The night stretched before them, full of possibilities, leaving them all wondering one thing: who would they become in the shadows of privilege and in the light of truth? Ryan could hardly breathe as the murmurs around them sharpened into distinct words. The tension felt like a coiled spring, ready to snap at any moment. He stood firm, not wanting to retreat into the shadows again. Beside him, Jake shifted uncomfortably, feeling the weight of their old life pressing heavily on his shoulders. Can you believe this? One of their former friends whispered loudly enough for the group to hear. They're actually defending her. Another chimed in mockingly, what's next? Are we all supposed to start applauding the help? As the derisive laughter spread through the crowd, Ryan's stomach churned. He caught a glimpse of Mary's face. Instead of anger, he saw a flicker of resilience. Her strength bolstered his resolve. He wouldn't let their cruelty suffocate this moment. Do you really think you're better than her? Ryan shouted, his voice cutting through the snickers. The crowd fell silent, all eyes now on him. Mary works harder than any of us cleaning up after your excess, your carelessness. She deserves more respect than any of you ever saw in her. So think twice before you throw stones from your glass houses. The silence that followed felt weighty. Ryan could feel the vibrations of disapproval from those who had shared the same air with him for years, but he also sensed something new: curiosity. Even Jake stood there, torn between disbelief and a strange yearning to break free from the constraints of their old life. Ryan, this isn't how things are done, Jake finally said, his voice lowering to a whisper, almost pleading. You're going to ruin everything. What about Dad's business? The friends we've let them go. Ryan snapped. What are they really worth if they can't see who Mary is? A person. Like us. Mary placed a gentle hand on Ryan's shoulder. It's all right. I'm used to their words. You don't have to fight my battles. Please don't say that, he replied, surprisingly vulnerable. You're not just the help to me, Mary. You've taught me more about dignity and strength than this stupid gala ever could. The confession hung in the air, stark and hopeful. For a brief moment, the laughter faded into a hum, replaced by murmurs of surprise and intrigue. Mary's eyes glistened, and for a brief second, Ryan feared he had overstepped. But then she smiled, a genuine smile that illuminated her face like a beacon. Thank you, Ryan. Honestly, it means the world to me. Just as Ryan began to feel a tinge of victory wash over him, the room exploded into chaos. One of the guests, clearly offended, waded into the fray. You think you're doing something noble? This isn't a charity case, Ryan. This is a party for influential people, not some soapbox for you. Ryan's heart dropped. The laughter returned, creating an electric atmosphere of discomfort and danger that swirled around him. Jake frowned deeply, wrestling with the desire to flee while feeling an unshakable connection to Ryan's courage. Mary is incredible, Jake shouted suddenly, and the floor seemed to collapse around them. Her work, her dedication, it matters. Maybe we're the ones who need to pay attention. Gasps echoed through the crowd, and Ryan turned to Jake, astonished. Was his brother really standing up for Mary? To hell with privilege. Jake continued, his voice cracking. Let us not pretend we're better than anyone here. The firestorm was rising, and Ryan could sense the tipping point. He felt 1,000 eyes pinned on them, 100 hearts racing in anticipation. This was no longer just about them, it was about creating real change, yet, with that spark of hope came a haunting fear. How far were they willing to go? And what would the fallout become? As the room buzzed with a mixture of admiration and anger, Ryan locked eyes with Mary once more. In that glance, they shared hopes and fears together on the precipice of what could be a life-altering journey. Would they face the storm ahead, or would the weight of their past pull them back into the shadows? The night was far from over, and destiny awaited. What would the breaking point reveal? The energy in the room crackled with intensity. Guests exchanged glances filled with shock and hesitant admiration. Ryan's breath came in quick gasps as he stood there with Jake, the air thick with anticipation. The whispers turned loud, braiding together threads of anger, disbelief, and a hint of something else, possibility. You think you can just walk in here and change everything? Another voice cut through the chaos, dripping with contempt. You're going to ruin your family's legacy. Ryan felt the sharp sting of that comment. It felt like a slap in the face. They had always been expected to play along, to smile and nod while pretending not to see the inequities around them. But as he looked at Mary, standing tall despite the storm brewing around them, a new sense of purpose settled into his bones. I'm not ruining anything, Ryan said, his voice echoing in the stillness that followed. If anything, I'm just opening our eyes to what has been right in front of us. A ripple of murmurs surged through the crowd, mixed with disbelief and a flutter of intrigue, as the weight of his words took hold. Jake, still visibly shaken, stepped closer to Ryan. We can't ignore the truth anymore, he added, the quiver in his voice fading into a firmer conviction. This isn't just Mary's struggle, it's ours too. It's time to own it. Mary's heart swelled at their words. They risked everything, friendships, family, reputation, security, just to stand up for her. It meant the world more than she could express. Yet a flicker of fear rippled through her. Would they really be prepared for the backlash? Just then, the host of the gala, an older man with a thin mustache and a pinched expression, intervened. This is highly inappropriate, he declared, waving a hand dismissively. This event is meant to celebrate our achievements, not to air grievances. If you choose to remain here, you need to tone it down. Ryan felt a flame of defiance ignite within him. What are achievements worth if they're built on the backs of others? He shot back, his voice unwavering, the words lingered in the air like a challenge. Daring anyone to dispute the truth embedded in them. One young woman from the crowd, her voice shaking yet fierce, spoke up next. Maybe it's time we all start appreciating the hard work that goes unseen. Mary deserves that. Her words shattered the fragile barrier of silence. More individuals began to nod, murmurs of agreement sprinkling through the crowd. An unexpected swell of support surged, giving Ryan hope as his pulse quickened. But even amidst the glimmers of change, the reality of fierce opposition loomed. A few of the guests shouted their disapproval, hurling accusations of betrayal. "You'll regret this." Someone yelled in the back. Mary felt a knot tighten in her stomach. The path they were carving was fraught with peril. "Ryan, Jake, we should think this through." "No." Ryan interrupted, urgency swelling in his chest. "We've kept quiet for too long. It's time to change the narrative. For us, for you, for everyone who feels invisible." Their gaze met, a shared understanding passing between them. It was a tiny flame against a dark wind, but it was there, undeniable, with the crowd's atmosphere shifting like a tide, the weight of the moment pressed down on them. As jaws clenched and tempers flared, Ryan realized that their simple act of courage could ignite a revolution, but what would that revolution cost? And who among them would have the strength to navigate the journey ahead? With questions swirling, the night hung on the precipice of something bigger than any of them had anticipated. How would they navigate the storm they had just unleashed? The crowd was a living thing, shifting and reacting, a wave of mixed emotions crashing against Ryan and Jake. Voices were raised, and anger seemed to echo off the walls, mingling with the elegant notes of the string quartet still attempting to play softly in the background. Ryan's heart raced as he scanned the faces around him. Some looked outraged, but others wore expressions of silent contemplation, souls grappling with the truths he had laid bare. "Shame on you," an older woman with a jeweled brooch nearly shouted. "You're tarnishing everything we've built." "And what have we built?" Ryan shot back, his tone sharp. "A world where suffering is ignored, as long as we get to enjoy the benefits of it." The energy in the room pulsed, crackling with tension. More heads were turning now, a sense of quiet rebellion blooming among the guests. People who once clinked champagne glasses together began to whisper amongst themselves, some nodding in agreement, others crossing their arms in disdain. Jake's shaking hand grabbed Ryan's wrist, grounding him. "We can't turn back now, Ryan. Not after everything Mary has sacrificed." Mary stood taller, fueled by their support. She felt a crescendo of hope rising within her, battling the fear that had threatened to consume her moments before. "It's not just about me. It's about everyone who has been overlooked." But the taste of defiance came with its own bitterness. A man stepped forward, his voice heavy with scorn. "You think you're some kind of savior? You're a fool if you think this will end well." His words stung, but Ryan held his ground. "And you're a coward if you choose this ignorance instead of facing reality." Suddenly, an unexpected voice chimed in. A young man from the far corner, whose name tag read Patrick, lifted his head, eyes fierce. "I'm with you. I've seen the realities behind the scenes too, and they're disgusting. It's time we speak up." A ripple of murmurs raced through the guests. Encouraged by Patrick's courage, others joined in. "We deserve better." One woman shouted, fists clenched at her sides. Cheers broke the tension, and the chaotic energy transformed into something electric, almost empowering. Mary's chest tightened with emotion. This was more than just words. It was a movement. A wave of change finally breaking through the surface, but as the cries for justice rose, so did the stakes. Ryan could see the anger twisting the faces of those who still resisted. They were digging in their heels. "Back off, or you'll regret it." Someone yelled, desperation laced with fear. Ryan took a deep breath, his heart pounding. "This isn't a war," he said, steadying his voice to cut through the cacophony. "This is a call for awareness. We can fix this together." But as the crowd swayed, Ryan knew the journey ahead would be far from smooth. The unity that blossomed so quickly might falter at the first sign of betrayal, and the voices of dissent could drown out the cries for change. Overshadowing it all was a gnawing anxiety. What if they weren't ready for the reality of the fire they were playing with? Would they stand together, or would divisions tear them apart? As he exchanged glances with Mary and Jake, he felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The road to revolution was not an easy one, and their love for each other would be tested like never before. The night was still young, but the darkness outside was closing in. Would they emerge warriors or casualties in this battle of beliefs? Only time would tell. How would their strength be tested in the trials to come? And would the light of change hold firm against the winds of tradition? The atmosphere inside the grand hall felt charged with potential, but danger lurked in the corners. Fearless voices rose up, yet many remained clamped shut, stifled by tradition and old loyalties. Ryan's gaze flitted from Mary to Jake, determination feeding the fire in his belly. They had started this journey together, they would see it through, no matter where the tide washed them. Together, Ryan repeated under his breath, sealing the resolve that coursed through him. He raised his hands, seeking calm amid the storm. If we really want to change things, it starts right here, right now. Mary's heart raced. This was so much bigger than any of them. People were beginning to shift their weight, and they started to form a circle around Ryan, Jake, and Patrick. She caught glimpses of faces she'd known for years, friends, colleagues, a community that had thrived in ignorance for too long. Would they stay, united, or would they turn away and retreat into complacency? Let us not be like them, a woman shouted, trembling with emotion. We have to speak out. We can't ignore what's happening. Yes. Patrick replied. Each word was like a spark igniting a more extensive fire. It's okay to be afraid, but we can't let that stop us anymore. The sound of applause erupted, mixed with hesitant cheers. Each clap seemed to wrap around the energy, creating a powerful bond that surged with possibility. Ryan felt the crowd shift, moving together like a single entity, hearts and minds aligned toward a common goal, but just as hope began to unfurl its tender tendrils, an ominous voice echoed again. Don't be fools. This isn't going to end pretty. The man spat, a sneer curling his lips that a ripple of tension formed in the air. The crowd's unity felt precarious. Ryan sensed they were dancing on a razor's edge. He took a step forward, raising his chin defiantly. Look around. This isn't about just one or two of us anymore. It's about all of us. Our fears are real, but what's worse is letting them keep us silent. Jake clenched his fists, anger igniting behind his blue eyes. You think you can intimidate us? We've been silenced for far too long. We will speak up. His voice rang clear, like a clarion call beckoning others to join their march toward progress. This time, the crowd found their voice, driven by Jake's passion. Cheers erupted, fanning the flame of courage. With each cheer, the threat of division flickered away. If they faced the storm together, they had a chance, but that ominous energy still lurked on the fringes. Those who would not accept change were backed by power and privilege. Their whispers began to form into threats, simmering just beneath the surface of the more optimistic voices. Ryan could feel the pulse of adrenaline, racing through him, but deeper there was an anchor of fear pulling at him. What if it all blew apart? What if those who mattered most to him were caught in the fallout? Ryan, Mary said softly, her voice barely above a whisper, pulling his gaze back to hers. What if we really can do this? What if we're all ready to fight? He felt a warmth in that moment, a flicker of hope, springing from her words. Then we must be ready for anything, he replied, feeling the weight of the fight ahead. With renewed spirit, he stepped forward into the blare of voices around him. This is only the beginning, everyone. Today, we claim our agency. Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching, lurking. The shadows at the edges of the room seemed to whisper secrets that would spell trouble. Fear twisted deep within him, but he pushed it down, determined to keep the light alive. As all eyes turned to him, he couldn't help but wonder if this moment was powerful. What darker truth awaited them around the next corner? Would they hold on to their newfound courage, or would the weight of resistance crush them before they had a chance to rise? The energy in the hall pulsed like a live wire as Ryan spoke, the sound of his voice breaking through the tension. It felt electric, but also terrifying. He could sense the anticipation rippling through the crowd. Who would support them? Who would still be standing there tomorrow, ready to fight? The moments stretched languidly, and yet they stood at an unimaginable precipice. Let us start with the truth. Ryan shouted, the words tumbling out, raw and unrefined. We can't let fear guide us. It's time to lift the veil. His heart pounded in sync with their collective response. The crowd began to murmur in agreement, voices overlapping, a tide of potential. Mary stepped closer, emboldened by Ryan's fervor. What's been hidden will come to light, she declared. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for everyone. For those who have been silenced too long. Her voice trembled but held firm, piercing past the uncertainty. Ryan caught the glimmer of hope in her eyes. He could feel it. They were no longer alone in the battle. This was a community alight with purpose. Still, in the depths of his heart, a dark shadow loomed. He couldn't ignore the threat that hung in the balance. He scanned the room, seeking signs of dissent, eyes flicking over to the man who had mocked them. Don't listen to their lies. The man sneered again, his voice heavy with scorn. You think you have power? You don't. You'll be crushed. His words slithered like a serpent, drenching the air with unease. Ryan's stomach twisted. Doubt pressed hard against him. Was this rallying cry enough to fight against long-established norms? The stakes had never felt higher, yet in the crowd echoed the resolve of many voices, no longer just whispers, but a growing choir of defiance. One elderly man raised his cane, brandishing it like a sword. We've lived through darker days. His voice cracked but resonated with undying spirit. If we stand together, we can change our fate. Strength in numbers. Cheers erupted, a wave of fervent support washing over them. The energy felt palpable. Yet, in the back of his mind, Ryan questioned if there were fractures hidden beneath this unity. Murmurs, those dark whispers of dissent, still lingered. As they rallied, Ryan caught a glimpse of Mary's determined face and felt an urge to protect her. They were entwined now in this fight, but what if taking this stand pushed them into the very line of fire they sought to dodge? He waved his hands to quiet the crowd, focusing on what lay ahead. Today, we've made our voices heard. But tomorrow we must be ready. Ready to face those who want to silence us again. Jake stepped forward, his hand resting on Ryan's shoulder. No backing down, is that right? Together, we can brave anything. No more secrets. His words resonated, merging hope with resilience, lighting the path forward, but still, doubt flickered at the edges of Ryan's mind. What would tomorrow bring? Would their courage hold against the storm brewing outside? Above the cheering crowd, the air thickened with tension, and another voice emerged from the shadows. Then let us see just how strong you really are. Ryan's heart raced. They thought they were prepared, but was that looming voice a harbinger of chaos, or the first crack in their plan for change? The path ahead darkened, the stakes rising with each moment, as uncertainty threatened to choke their newfound spirit. The atmosphere shifted rapidly. The weight of that ominous voice hung heavy like storm clouds ready to burst. Ryan felt the collective breath of the crowd hitch, a momentary pause as uncertainty clouded their newfound resolve. What appeared to be a unifying tide suddenly trembled, leaving cracks in their unity. Who's there? Mary shouted into the dark corners of the hall, her stance unwavering even as tension thickened. It took courage, but she stood firm, a beacon of strength that ignited a flicker of bravery in Ryan's chest. The only response was a lingering silence, thick enough to cut through the energy they had just built. Eyes darted around the crowd, searching, hoping for the light of a familiar face to guide them through the shroud of doubt. Ryan stepped closer to Mary, his voice low but steady. We're stronger together, he whispered, desperately trying to bolster her nerves. Somehow, her presence was grounding, even in the storm of fear. From the back, a figure emerged. A tall woman, her silhouette sharp against the light, stepped forward. The crowd's whispers crescendoed, engulfing the room in curiosity and uncertainty. I'm here, the woman said, her voice carrying across the hall like a soft yet commanding wave. And let me tell you, fear has ruled you long enough. Ryan's heart skipped. Could this woman turn their moment of panic back into strength? Fear will mislead you, she continued, her eyes fierce, holding the gaze of everyone before her. It tricks you into thinking you're powerless, that change is unattainable. But you are more powerful than you realize. With each word, she seemed to pull the darkness back, wading deeper into the light of their determination. Ryan felt the ripple spread through the crowd, confidence blossoming anew with the realization that they did not stand alone, but the man's sneering laughter echoed in his mind, creating a tight knot in his stomach. Why was it so easy to doubt when voices of dissent echoed so loudly? Who are you? Jake shouted, breaking through the renewed silence, suspicion lacing his tone. The crowd looked between them, weighing the truth of the stranger's words. I've seen this moment too many times, she replied, lifting her chin defiantly. What you decide today will ripple through every corner of this city. The time for half-truths is over. Stand firm against those who seek to drown you. Mary stepped forward, emboldened. You speak of power, she said, her voice lifting like a song. But can we really change things? Can we really believe we can fight against this silence? The woman met her gaze with fierce intensity. You must believe. Change begins now, with what you choose to accept. Will you back down and allow fear to crush you, or will you rise above and show them your true strength? Ryan felt the tension in the room hum with a new energy, as if the spirits of all who had fought before them hovered nearby, ready to take up the mantle. But doubt still lingered, a nagging whisper in the back of his mind. Suddenly, the man from earlier shoved his way through the crowd, eyes narrowed in contempt. You think you can sway them? He spat, pointing at Ryan. You think you have what it takes? You're all just playing with fire. You'll get burned. The edges of Ryan's vision blurred as a storm threatened to break. Was this man right? Could they transform their passion into a legitimate force against the oppression they faced? The hall pulsed with uncertainty, tensions fraying under the weight of judgment. In that confusion, Ryan felt a familiar push rising within him. Could he really rise above the fray, or had they just opened the door to their wreckage? With one deep breath, he silenced the noise in his head and shouted over the chaos. We're not afraid anymore. Would that single act of defiance be enough to tip the balance? Or had Ryan just ignited their very downfall? The crowd held its breath, the energy crackling around them as they waited for the next move. The response to Ryan's declaration hung in the air, electric and palpable. For an agonizing second, no one moved. Then the woman stepped forward, her eyes locked onto Ryan's, and she gave him a small nod. It was the affirmation he desperately needed, one that echoed his own growing belief. Fear is the enemy, she proclaimed once more, her voice now almost a battle cry. It thrives in silence. It festers in doubt. But once you speak up, once you take back your voice, you take away its power. A ripple of movement went through the crowd. People were nodding, murmurs of agreement rising as they exchanged glances filled with newfound fire. Ryan felt it, the shift, like a wave crashing over the rocky shore. Jake's sneer faltered as he took in the transformation unfolding around him. Uncertainty flickered across his face, replaced gradually by an unfamiliar emotion, something closer to fear. He opened his mouth to retort, but found himself drowned out by the growing voices of support. We believe in this. Mary shouted, her voice ringing with conviction. In ourselves. In one another. The woman's fierce gaze swept the room. Remember what's at stake. This is your moment to reclaim the city you care about. Your passion can spark change. With each word, the crowd stirred. Ryan felt courage filling the air like smoke igniting into flame. He caught eyes with Mary, who beamed at him, her face alight with hope. A quiet determination ignited within him. This was the time to act, not retreat. Feeling a swell of energy rising, Ryan stepped further into the light. We'll show them that we can rise together. We'll no longer let them drown our voices. His words resonated, garnering shouts of agreement. Yes. Someone cried from the back. We won. Back down. The tall woman's smile grew. See? Together, your voices can shake the very foundation of this city. Let them hear you. A chorus of voices erupted, stark and powerful, intertwined like a symphony. It rose in unison, fed by the energy pulsing through the hall. They shouted and roared, proclaiming their right to be heard, to exist without fear. But just as hope reached a zenith, that snide voice broke through again. You think that one T end badly for you? Jake sneered, stepping forward, but the weight of his words no longer held sway. Enough. The woman boomed, and her voice silenced his. She gestured toward the window behind her. Look outside. Change does not come without risk. They may try to silence you, but remember this: every revolution begins with a single voice like yours. 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 Ryan took a deep breath. Together, he echoed. We're stronger together. The crowd took up the chant, their voices growing louder, building into an unstoppable force, but just as the night seemed to pull back its veil, a piercing siren blared outside, the sharp sound cutting through their new hope. Ryan's heart raced. Had they drawn too much attention? Was this the moment they had been waiting for, or the start of something more dangerous? Panic flashed, but he gripped Mary's hand, grounding himself in her presence amidst the uncertainty. The crowd began to quiet, waiting, holding its breath again. What would they do now? Ryan looked out of the window, heart pounding. Would they step forward into the unknown, or cower once more? There had to be a way to turn this fear into action, to transform a mere act of defiance into a movement. But how? He felt himself breaking into a cold sweat. Would fear trap them again, or would they rise when it mattered most? The sirens continued to wail outside, piercing the charged atmosphere inside the gala. Ryan gripped Mary's hand tightly, feeling her warmth seep into his palms, anchoring his swirling thoughts. Stay strong, he whispered to her, his heart racing with determination. The crowd began to murmur anxiously as the noise spilled in from outside. What would happen next? Would they be met with backlash or support? Would their moment of courage crumble? Listen, the woman said. This is your chance. Whatever comes next, don't let fear dictate your response. Stand together. Her voice boomed, rippling through the crowd like a jolt of electricity, a reminder that true power lay in unity. Ryan caught Jake's eye, exchanging a moment filled with uncertainty. It was time for Jake to decide where he stood. Would he walk the familiar path, wrapped in privilege and comfort, or break free into the unknown with Ryan by his side? Suddenly, a group of police officers stormed into the gala, their uniforms stark against the sparkle of chandeliers and silk gowns. The room fell silent, the tension palpable as everyone exchanged frightened glances. Were they here for them? Hands where we can see them. One officer barked, scanning the crowd with stern authority. Ryan's heartbeat thudded loudly in his ears as the reality of the moment sank in. They were standing at the precipice between fear and courage. The woman stepped forward, hands raised, her expression unwavering. We are simply exercising our rights. This is a call for awareness, for change. The officers hesitated, glancing at each other, uncertainty creeping into their features. The crowd still held its breath, ready to either stand down or rise for what was right. Ryan felt the weight of the moment, every eye on him, on them. Jake finally broke from his uncertainty. We have voices, and we need to be heard. He shouted, the fear in his voice replaced by fire. You may not agree with us, but this is our lives. Ryan could scarcely believe what he was hearing. It was no longer just him, Jake was in this too. His brother was choosing the uncertain path, the one laced with integrity. Mary smiled, her eyes shining with gratitude and awe. Together. She shouted, her voice ringing true, joining Jake's declaration. The crowd mirrored the sentiment, an echo of determination rising from the depths of their hope. Together. They roared, voices intertwining into a powerful chorus that enveloped the room. The officers exchanged nervous glances as the energy shifted, their authority weakened by the unity before them. One of them stepped forward again, but this time, it was a different man, softer. What is going on here? He asked, looking less like someone ready to enforce laws and more like someone curious about what sparked this fire. This is about more than just us, Ryan replied, his voice confident now, aware that the moment was fragile but full of possibility. It's about recognizing the struggles others face, the lives overlooked, the people who work hard and deserve better. The tense air thickened with anticipation. If they stood firm, they could change everything. He felt it in his bones. The officer nodded slowly, opening the door for dialogue rather than confrontation. We need to understand your message, he said, crossing his arms. Tell us what you mean. Mirroring the resolve within the crowd, Ryan took a step closer. We're here to remind everyone that everyone deserves respect. We can't turn a blind eye anymore. His voice steadied as he spoke, a sense of purpose driving him forward. With renewed vigor, the crowd erupted again, for Mary. For us. For change. Ryan locked eyes with the officer, seeing a flicker of understanding as whispers of support rippled through the gathering. Bands of tension slowly fell, steamrolling into something brighter, a chance for dialogue, a spark of change ignited by their voices, rooted in real experiences. The woman nodded approvingly, and Mary clasped Ryan's shoulder. They had cracked open a door wider than they thought possible, but would they step through it together? Ryan felt the light hit his heart. It was here, in this moment, that they could shift perspectives and challenge a system that had upheld ignorance for too long. Change can start now. He shouted, lifting the collective spirit, each word an ember ready to light a fire. The officer shifted his weight. All right, then. Lead the way. Let us figure out how to talk about this. A rush of energy flowed through the crowd, and the officers followed tentatively, signaling a willingness to listen, to learn. The fissures of doubt began to close as the despair of the earlier moments melted away. Here was the opportunity to change the narrative, to reshape the story of what privilege and community could mean together. In that moment, hope flickered like a beacon. They were not just standing together against resistance, they were forging a path forward. The echoes of connection, resilience, and humanity pulsed through the crowd as they turned their focus outward, knowing their courage could fuel the fire of understanding. Remember, change starts with us. You need to subscribe now to keep this story going. This is the moment to show your support. Let us change our world together. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread this message. Comment your thoughts about this transformation. How will you aid in making a difference? Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful journey towards change. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Your voice matters.